Hello, Commander players. Jumbo Commander here, and today we have the legendaries from Aether Revolt. Let's jump right in with Sram, Senior Edificer. 1 and a white for a 2/2 legendary dwarf advisor, and whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, draw a card. Oh, what beautiful words. And to be honest, we don't hear that very often in white. It's difficult to draw cards in this color. So we have to pay extra close attention to any card that allows us to draw more. I mean, obviously, Sram slots right in to your Depala deck that we're all thinking about building, but then didn't find enough dwarves for. But this is a perfect dwarf that fits in and synergizes really well with vehicles, by the way. Cultivator's Caravan, a kind of a mediocre mana rock. Just imagine if this was a mana rock for 3 and then draws you a card. Oh my gosh, it's so good. But it's not just about vehicles and dwarves, these sort of Kaladesh block mechanics. It's also the all-stars in white, auras and equipment as well. I mean, just think of Pure Steel Paladin, a classic equipment card that will draw you a card whenever an equipment comes into play. I mean, that's really good, and Sram will double up on this ability. I mean, also, if you're going heavy on auras, Core Spirit Dancer is really strong in an aura deck, say maybe a Ural deck. Well, we can have Sram complement the auras. And actually, Sram can kind of mix and match better than a lot of other cards. It's a Pure Steel Paladin and a Core Spirit Dancer sort of together. So if you're playing maybe a Sigarda Voltron deck or any other Voltron deck, you can mix and match auras and equipment and a vehicle here and there, and really get the advantage of card draw that you want in this color. I'm super excited about this card. Baral, Chief of Compliance. 1 and a blue for a 1/3 legendary human wizard, and instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less. Ooh. And whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. I have to say, if anyone plays this as their commander, I'm going to be like, oh, you have so many counter spells that I'm so sad. But actually, I think this could be really powerful as part of the 99 in something like Talrand. I don't think it will replace Talrand in this tempo draw spells counter deck, because Talrand is there to generate the advantage with his drakes, but Baral fits right in. I also am thinking of a deck like Mizzix, where you kind of want to build a critical mass of spells, and these guys are going to be best friends. I mean, Mizzix just generating value and experience counters by casting more and more stuff. Baral making it cheaper, giving you card advantage when you counter something. I mean, giving you the ability to storm off better. Baral is going to be great. I mean, really it reminds me of Goblin Electromancer, but much better casting cost and an added ability. It's going to be really, really strong. I also want you to think of Jace's Sanctum. Now, this is not something that was on my mind. 3 and a blue for an enchantment that says instants and sorcery spells cost 1 less to cast. All right. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, scry 1. Now, Baral does have the raw advantage of being able to loot, draw a card, discard a card. But scry is pretty good too, and enchantments are harder to get off the battlefield. I like that we're getting more of these abilities so we can kind of mix and match, and we can get a critical mass of them so we can start doing broken things. I'm really excited about that. Not to mention Lol Mage Mentor. Now, I wanted to find something that had an ability on countering a spell, and Lol Mage Mentor was one of them. I really wish this was a legendary creature. Whenever a spell or ability you controls counters a spell, you may put a 1/1 blue merfolk creature token onto the battlefield. Tap 7 untapped merfolk you control to counter target spell. I like the idea of like you running so many counter spells that you can sort of get added value out of countering other people's spells. It's like, oh, I'm going to counter your spell, I'm going to get a merfolk, and then I'm going to draw a card and discard a card and get an experience counter. I mean, and a Drake. I mean, it's kind of fun to gain all of this value while playing instant speed and disrupting your opponent. I think Baral's really sweet. Yahenni, Undying Partisan. For 2 and a black, you get a 2/2 hasty Aetherborn Vampire. And whenever a creature your opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Yahenni. Also, sacrifice another creature. Yahenni gains indestructible until end of turn. Ooh, I like Yahenni. It gets bigger and has haste. Okay, we're not really interested in getting really hasty 2/2s into play, but we are really interested in getting instant speed sacrifice outlets. Ooh, I'm really excited about that. Yahenni seems like he slots in really well into a Marchesa deck, the original Marchesa, where you can sacrifice other creatures for value. +1/+1 counters are in the mix. He has haste. It's a lot of tricky stuff. I'm really excited to try out Yahenni. But also, he's a vampire. Ooh, so we can go vampires with a card like Olivia Voldaren. I like the idea that he's a vampire. You can go vampire tribal. You can go +1/+1 a little bit. It's the instant speed sack outlet. I think that this hits on a lot of different levels. What I'm thinking of when I'm thinking of Yahenni is I'm thinking of Grave Pact. I'm thinking of this ability for whenever your opponent's creatures dies, this guy gets bigger. It's sort of these Punisher mechanics. I like that in Commander, and I like the idea of basically having a board wipe and then making Yahenni indestructible and also huge at the same time. Ooh, now that I'm talking through it, he sounds like a much more powerful general than I first thought. But I like the flexibility. He can be in a lot of different strategies. The only other instant speed sack outlets that are really strong would be Dimir Houseguard and then also Viscera. There are some colorless ones like the 2 altars. And of course, there are more sacrifice outlets, but we have to be really aware of these instant speed, no mana cost, in black abilities to manipulate sacrifices. Again, very strong addition to this complement of sacrifice outlets. Kari Zev, Skyship Raider, is a 1/3 legendary human pirate for 1 and a red. A little bit underwhelming for Commander, but let's keep reading. First Strike and Menace. Again, I don't know if I care about a easy to attack 1/3. You know, First Strike is a nice combat ability, but you're first striking 1 toughness creature's dead. Okay. Menace, again, I don't care if it's harder to block my 1 power creature. But whenever Kari Zev Skyship Raider attacks, create a 1/2 legendary monkey creature token named Ragavan that's tapped and attacking. Exile that token at the end of combat. I love that this is a pirate that creates a monkey, and it feels very much in flavor with Kaladesh. And so I think this is a big flavor win. I don't think I'm going to play it in my Commander decks, but let's pretend that I might. Oh, I can't even play it in Ramirez de Pietro, the pirate tribal. It doesn't fit. It's the wrong color. Oh, no. Okay. Well, maybe I can like jam it sideways into a Perforos deck because it does attack and trigger a monkey over and over again. That's something at least. I don't know. I think it's really cool. I'm probably going to try and fit this in my cube. I'm kind of excited about having 3 power worth of attacking on turn 2 and some of it being kind of evasive. I think that's cool. And it could be powerful enough. When I'm thinking of this, I'm thinking maybe Goblin Rabblemaster, but not as good and not as relevant a creature type. Maybe Handwear Garrison, but again, this has the added upside of flipping and is just far more powerful at putting tokens onto the battlefield. I don't know if it's got a spot, guys. Next up, we have my favorite, Rishkar Peema Renegade. 2 and a green for a 2/2 legendary elf druid, and when he enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Each creature you control with a counter on it has tap, add green to your mana pool. So this is essentially 4 power and toughness for 3 mana and some added mana elf abilities. I'm really excited about that, and also the flexibility of spreading your counters around a little bit, having several creatures tap for green. Ooh, this is going right into my Azuri Elf Tribal deck, and in fact, it's going right into my Baral of the Hulkling deck. I mean, the ability to just distribute some power to ramp you when you wouldn't be able to. Heck, even put +1/+1 counters on something so you can proliferate it is incredibly powerful. You know, if we're looking for similar abilities, Cryptolith Rite comes to the top of my head, but also there's some creatures that do something similar. How about these Hierophants that give every creature you have tapped add 1 green mana to your mana pool? Very strong. And if we're talking +1/+1 counters, how about Gyre Sage, which can give you tons and tons of mana? And Rishkar can do the same thing, but in a sort of different way, maybe utilizing underutilized creatures by spreading those counters around. Goes great in an elf deck, in a counter deck, in a proliferate deck. I'm excited about this legendary creature. We have one last legendary, and it's Hope of Ghirapur. It's a legendary Thopter. Oh, I guess I should. 1 for a 1/1. Flying. Okay, it's got another ability. Sacrifice Hope of Ghirapur until your next turn. Target player who was dealt combat damage by Hope of Ghirapur can't cast non-creature spells. Honestly, guys, I don't know. I don't know where this fits in to Commander, and I really want it to because it's a legendary Thopter, and I really do like Thopters. I have one idea. My one idea is that it goes in Alicia, because Alicia can always just pull it back out of the graveyard, and if your opponent doesn't have flying, you can just get in again and then sacrifice it, and then it kind of shuts them down for the next turn. I like that synergy, but Alicia does so many broken things. Why are you like disrupting them with a 1/1 flyer when, you know, there's Master of Cruelties out there? You know, there's some crazy stuff that Alicia can do, so I don't know. I mean, this brings to mind Xanthid Swarm. When Xanthid Swarm attacks, defending player can't cast spells this turn. This kind of is an ability to attack, and then who cares if it dies, and then you can go off. I mean, I know that Hope of Ghirapur goes through the next turn and Xanthid Swarm doesn't, but it's kind of a similar effect, and I really don't see this effect very much in Commander, especially because it's multiplayer. I don't know. I'm also thinking about, you know, 1-drop generals, maybe like Isamaru. This could be a Voltron, you know, a Voltron Thopter. That could be pretty cool, you know, a 1-drop legendary artifact Thopter, and then you just build it up into a Voltron, kind of like an Isamaru deck, but colorless and Thoptering and equipments. I mean, I don't know. It could work. It could work. The only problem is that there's other cards that are just stronger than it. Please tell me someone's broken this. Tell me in the comments how to use Hope of Ghirapur in Commander. That's it, guys. This has been Jumbo Commander with my Aether Revolt Legendaries set review. It's a small set, so there are only 5 monocolored commanders and 1 artifact, but there's a lot of great stuff in this set. There's a lot of other cards, and so I'm looking forward to breaking apart all the little pieces and intricacies in Aether Revolt. Thank you very much for joining me for the legendary creatures. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.